The House of Representatives just unanimously passed a new measure to expand the reach of the Department of Veterans Affairs in distributing the coronavirus vaccine. The new VA Vaccine Act would allow some caregivers and all veterans, even those who don't receive health care from the VA, to receive vaccines through the VA. Congressman Mark Takano is chairman of the House Veterans Affairs Committee. Thanks for joining me, Congressman. What spurred this legislation? What made you think that this was an important piece to get passed?
You know, we were getting accounts of elderly veterans in their 90s, the last band of brothers who fought in World War II, who were being turned away from being vaccinated in Florida because they weren't eligible or enrolled in VA. The income was too high. Not all Americans understand that not all veterans receive their health care from the VA. You have to meet an income test or have some sort of service-connected disability or medical condition. And it was unseemly that we turned away someone in their 90s to get a vaccine. And so we, my colleagues and I, we got together on a bipartisan basis to create the Veteran Vaccine Act, which would give the Secretary of the VA the authority during a national emergency to administer vaccines to veterans, regardless of their eligibility for VA health care or whether they're enrolled in some other VA benefit.
Do you have an estimate of how many veterans might benefit from this legislation?
There are roughly 20 to 21 million veterans. About 9 million of them are actually enrolled in the VA for health care. So, you know, probably at least another 10, 11 million veterans would be eligible under this legislation.
Yeah, a sizable number. And what about the caregiver piece? How would this legislation help them?
Well, if their spouses, not spouses, but they have family caregivers, there's formal programs for caregivers. And so it makes sense for, you know, people with spinal cord injuries, veterans with spinal cord injuries, for their caregivers to be able to be vaccinated as well. That's why the Paralyzed Veterans of America and the Elizabeth Dole Foundation are strong advocates for this legislation, as are a range of veteran service organizations. I really hope the Senate will act quickly on passing this legislation, because we really do need the Secretary of the VA to have the discretion to extend vaccinations to veterans everywhere. I mean, there's varying degrees of progress, exciting progress being made in different communities where there are VA medical centers. I've heard that in Indiana, they are vaccinating at that VMAC, I think in Indianapolis, veterans as young as 18 years old. And that's very exciting. And I know my local VA in Loma Linda, I think the age was either 60 or 50. I want to be careful because I don't want to create a rush unnecessarily. But the VA has been one of the most effective and efficient vaccinators of all of the entities out there vaccinated. I got to give a lot of credit to the Veterans Health Administration. Dr. Stone has just shown tremendous leadership.
You mentioned that the Senate needs to take this up next. Do you have any idea of a timeline for that?
I don't, but I just urge my Senate colleagues to act quickly. You know, we believe the language in this bill, you know, gets it right. You know, and it gives the Secretary, you know, authority going forward during national emergencies and pandemics. More than that, we have a lot of veterans living abroad in countries like the Philippines or in some parts of Europe, you know, who are enrolled in the foreign medical program with the VA. And this bill would also allow VA to make sure that those veterans have access to vaccine as well.
Assuming the Senate, you know, does take it up and it does get passed and signed, it seems like there's a little bit of a logistics challenge in terms of getting the word out, making some veterans aware, maybe even ones who've been turned away, that they're now eligible and can do this. How do you hope to approach that?
Well, I think the VA has tremendous communications resources. We can certainly get this message out through the veteran service organizations once it is enacted into law. We have state, veteran services across the country at the county level. There's a way for us to mobilize, I think, a very effective communications program to make sure our veterans are notified. And I have to say, I'm hoping that the White House will also get involved and send the message out there to our veterans that once this law is passed, that you can go to the VA and get your vaccine. Now, I just want to give a little caveat here. The VA also is in line for its allocations of vaccines. It's, as I said, it's very efficient at getting the vaccines into veterans' arms and the arms of their staff. But depending on the supply, that's what's going to allow the local medical directors to be able to vaccinate this other veteran population, in addition to the population that they have primary responsibility to serve. So, but I've been talking to Dr. Stone. I think we're both optimistic that by the end of March and the beginning of April, that we're going to see, increased supplies. So I feel like the VA is in a really great position to be part of this massive effort that was announced by the president last night in his amazing speech, that we're going to be able to vaccinate a lot of Americans, most Americans, maybe by July.
Thank you so much, Congressman.
Thank you.